Hi, this is Dana. Of course, I forgot to say last time on this channel I speak about Gnostic spirituality, mostly about spiritual fighting, because this is a critical dimension of the process of healing and ascension. Yeah, it's not because I have some sort of obsession with spiritual fighting. It's just because it's critical dimension of healing. You cannot heal without the spiritual fighting. Most of the healing, not most, but all of the healing is related to different type of entity attack or attachment sent by someone coming on its own. Regardless, you have to do it. Now, God has asked me to talk in this video about timelines. I did make a video a long time ago in which I talked about parallel realities, and that referred to this. Now, I didn't have time to watch that video to remember what I said in that video, so I'm just gonna go through whatever I think it's gonna be added value as compared to that. Now, a timeline is a situational cycle. It's most of the times, because we are in 3D, a timeline is a karmic cycle. Yeah, it's karmic in nature because everything is karmic in 3D. Everything is created, is man created in order to enslave, to steal, and to do harm, right? The only divine truth is the one that you create together with God. We came here in 3D in order to break all of these bondages, all of these fake narratives, which are the foundation and the backdrop of timelines. Yeah. So the backdrop of a timeline, it's a fake narrative created by someone. Literally, I explained in the previous video, I think. It's like you make a movie. They do this, like they make a movie for cinema. They get together, they create a narrative in order to serve their interests. Yeah. And then they start creating, they have convents which work specifically on this as mercenaries to create the sort of attachments and darkness casting and rituals which will bring that narrative into reality, into 3D reality. Yeah. And that is a timeline. And it's based on bondages, it's based on contracts of enslavement and stealing of divine rights of certain people. This is what it's man created. Yeah. Now, obviously, previous generations lived through a certain number of timelines. Each individual has done better or worse in breaking those bondages. But a timeline comes together with a certain number of people which are involved in the development of that scenario, that narrative, which was the backdrop of the creation of the timeline. Yeah. And a certain bondages, a certain number of bondages, contracts, clients, convents, all sorts of actors, be it individual actors or even countries, continents, alliances, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So this is a timeline. Before it becomes a reality in 3D, a timeline will develop in astral. This is why it's important that you raise your vibration, you raise your awareness in order to detect when somebody is trying to impose a timeline on you. Yeah, is trying to alter your reality and create a different timeline. Basically, for a while, the timeline, as long as it's being developed in astral and they are casting darkness, trying to bring it into reality, that is a parallel reality to your 3D reality. Ideally, you do the spiritual fighting and the healing in order to cut everything off and get justice in astral, so that will not become your reality. However, it's not always possible. No matter how much you fight, sometimes it's not always possible for you to achieve that, to prevent it from becoming reality. And then that means that you're gonna do the best you can to cut off as much as possible from that bondage which was associated with the timeline, and then you will continue fighting while that becomes a reality in your life. Even when it becomes a reality in your life, if you are already fighting and you're following divine guidance, God will alter the narrative and will help you, give you guidance to ditch bullets, namely, even the bondages associated with the timeline can be altered. Mainly, you have a death attack, and which in a previous development of the timeline literally led to death for whoever was embodying you. Then in your case, if you're already fighting, God will give you hints in such a way so you will dodge a bullet, not to actually die, but you will go through the accident. It's very seldom that you can completely dodge all bullets and not encounter any of the bondages, because you have a whole situation which is being involved, a large number of people which are being involved in this, many of them consciously, but some of them unconsciously. When a timeline becomes reality, when it's enacted, when it's activated, identities of the people involved in that timeline in previous generations, literally a new identity gets activated on them. This basically, it's subject of how to say this, of activity of convents. This is how convents live. This is how all these individual, the matrix, lives and makes money. Literally, they are selling narratives, timelines. They are selling the scenario like you sell a movie. They go with the scenario to a certain client. They say, I can make this happen for you if you're interested in this outcome. Or we can negotiate one outcome if you tell me, and I can alter the narrative. And then they start doing rituals and casting darkness on everyone in such a way, and they are selling contracts in from that timeline, like in a movie. They are selling roles of actors. Yeah, so they have individuals whom they plant in your life, and they come with a role, which they an identity which they bought, and they are supposed to play that role so that timeline can become a reality for you. Yeah, there are many people who do this, and they can do this all of the sudden. You might not even know when they do it. Again, a timeline is being activated even when they succeed to sell the contract on that narrative, and they find the client interested in that. They will sell then roles, identities to different individuals. They will plant their own individuals. They will take upon themselves certain identities. All of these come with divine rights for those identities which are being activated, you included. And the subject of negotiations between them is selling those divine rights, because you do not know that a timeline was activated. You don't know that all of a sudden you have certain divine rights. So they start selling them. Most times there's a lot of practice of enslavement through marriage in 3D. Therefore, many times the spouse is the one who is being recruited, knows about all this, and makes the negotiations and gives accord in your name behind your back for individuals to steal your divine rights according to that timeline. And of course, they ask for some benefits for themselves. What else should I tell you about this? There are, as I said, there are a number of identities which are being sold to certain individuals, and they are supposed to play those roles. Some of them are really like employees. They are employed to play the role, and they request a certain payment. I want a house, I want a car, I want money, I want a position, a promotion, a status, whatever, in exchange for making this happen for you, mainly playing the role that you're giving me. Yeah. So this is happening. This is how 3D is created. You need to understand that this is critical part of 3D existence and the control they have over events. Now, on your side, you yourself, your life is made of a lot of timelines, especially if you break generational curses. There are a lot of timelines, a lot of bondages that you need to go through to break those bondages, yeah? And you need to understand that each timeline has been lived by many generations before, so they created their additional bondage on that than what was initially envisaged when that was created. And you have to deal with all of that. From time to time, when you feel drawn, you can ask God for to be moved to a new timeline. Usually, this happens when you cannot, when you get stuck in the current situation and you cannot do anything. You cannot move forward, and they succeed to corner you and to ambush you and to take all the resources from you and all the help that you could get. Then you can ask for a new timeline, but you must be aware that whatever new timeline from the behind, from the past, is being activated. God can activate new timelines for you. Yeah, but you must be aware that every timeline comes with all of this karmic situation. What will happen is that some timelines are more beneficial for you and more easy for you to fight according to whatever place you are in your evolution and whatever gifts you developed and so on. An activation of a timeline by God automatically gives you divine rights and a new beginning. That doesn't mean you're going to necessarily develop the new beginning unless you succeed to break the bondage which comes with the timeline. Because God is activating the timeline for you to give you the new beginning. But at the same time, there are so many other individuals connected to that timeline. Yeah. Therefore, all of them get activated at the same time. And all of them start playing their roles. And I say this again, there are many who are doing this on a role play as mercenaries. Yeah. But also there are some who are actually completely unaware. And this is happening since you were born in 3D. You need to understand this. This is how your life developed so far, with different timelines being activated. Again, sometimes God is activating a new timeline to avoid, for example, your death if somebody wants to kill you. God switches to a new timeline. Yeah, but doesn't mean that the new timeline is 100% beneficial for you or is more fun for you, but it switches the reality. Yeah, you in energy terms, you can observe this if you pay attention. Instantly, you will get activated on you and on others with a new timeline activation. You will get new identities, new embodiment. You will get everything that comes with that embodiment. That can mean addictions, that can mean obsessions, that can mean anything, a whole personality, a whole, in your energy field, a whole new personality will develop, will become alive, sort of say. Yeah. Now, of course, you can control that. You need to be a lot in the observer mode. And you need to be understanding and ask for divine guidance to understand what kind of timeline was activated, what kind of embodiment was placed on you, and so on and so forth. Yeah, because you need to understand who are the players, who has the power, what are they, what narrative they push, what they want to do against you. So you need to understand all this so you can shape up some sort of strategy for you. Yeah. But you can always, I can tell you this, you can always detach yourself from the energy of the embodiment. So if an embodiment with addictions is activated on you, you can detach yourself. You don't have to become addicted. You will become addicted if you do not observe and you do not push out all of that. If you observe and you push out and you clear that, that means you broke the bondage on that identity of that addiction. So you already get divine grace from God because this is good for you. You get elevation because of your merit, but also it's a good deed for everybody who embodied that embodiment, that identity before and got this addiction, because you automatically clear them. Some of them are your ancestors. Yeah, and you cleared that darkness for them by healing that. And this is a bondage breaking automatically. I'm giving you just one example. This is just one fraction, like 1% from the entire bondage. Yeah, it's then you will get for example, a narrative in which you meet a man, and the narrative is that you fall madly in love, and he sells you as a slave, and he harms you, and he whatever. Now, if you are at a certain place in your evolution, you can see through the individual. When you see, it happened to me many times that I met individuals whom, according to the timeline and the narrative, were supposed to be having so much power over me. And I saw through them from the very beginning. I broke the bondage, yeah. But that it's not easy, because that individual is under that embodiment, and all the demons which are attached to him to carry that embodiment will become enraged, will be rolled back, and will become furious and angry at you. And all of a sudden, you don't understand why somebody hates you for no reason, because you did nothing. I struggled a lot with this, to understand this. But then finally I got it. People who were mad at me for no reason, and I was like, why is he so hateful at me? Because I was very polite. I just told him I'm not interested in a relation. Why would he be so crazy and try to kill me because of this? And with time, after I broke bondage and I went through many timelines, I understood, that was an embodiment on that individual that he was not aware of. He took upon himself the embodiment fully, because he was not observing, he was not fighting. And then when because I was awoke and aware, I saw through the bullshit, I cut off the bondage, and I just moved on. Simply, for me it was simple. But then all hell broke loose, because the other one was not fighting. Yeah. So you need to understand that bondage breaking, in its concept, it's easy if you are awake and aware, but it's easy to make the decision. However, the outcome in energy terms, it's much more difficult to control, even for God sometimes. Sometimes I actually had God telling me that he's concerned about certain situation, and that he doesn't want me to confront it. Just let it go. Just let it wave out. Because I don't know how this one is going to react. In previous iterations of this timeline, he killed the one who you're embodying. So let's just play down for a while and move on in a different direction. Yeah. So I'm warning to understand that it's not difficult to do it, but somehow sometimes the outcomes are very complicated to control, to manage, and very irrational, and people are very irrational. When you succeed in breaking the bondage, it's a success for you. You've done well. This is what you were supposed to be doing. But because they didn't find their own embodiment, then they get crazy, and they get all of this behavior, which they themselves cannot explain if you succeed to get them to talk calmly. Yeah. So this is a timeline. I think this is what God wanted me to talk about. Again, in energy terms, you need to be observing when this is happening, and you need to seek guidance to understand the whole logic of the narrative, and what is the best option for you, how to manage it, how to deal with it. You can help others in this as well. But of course, sometimes it's easier to just go through the reality of it all. The problem is why, this is God is telling me, tell why to fight. You can go through it, indeed. You can let it develop, and you can go through it. But what you need to understand is that once you go through it as a 3D reality, that means you already set precedent for a pattern. Even if you close the timeline, that pattern remains in your life. You closed the timeline, you broke the bondage, you then got rid of the embodiment, and you are yourself now and working with God. However, because you didn't succeed to break that bondage in astral and you let it become reality, then that's a pattern creation in your own life, which means you will encounter this in the future. Someone in your life will do this again to you, because you, by letting that event taking place in reality, then you created the precedent for pattern creation. Yeah, so that this is why it's very important that to break everything that you can in astral before it becomes reality. Not because you cannot break it as a reality, but as a reality is gonna drag along, and it's gonna have impact on your own life even after you close the timeline. Yeah, so, and that's not nice, that's not pleasant, it's frustrating, and it's not fair, of course. But sometimes many things are not fair in this that we're doing. And every time when I keep telling God that this is not fair, this is not what we discussed, this is not what you promised, then God says, this is 3D, you know. So you need to understand that, of course, this is not fair, but you will move along, you will break that as well, and then it's gonna be cut off. But you need to understand that if you let a timeline become reality, you will be able to cut it off by living through the bondage and breaking the bondage while you go through it. But that means that it's gonna trigger a new iteration of that shit in your life after you finish the timeline. Yeah. Unfortunately, what happens is that as you do this, you are not left alone to just close everything. The imbecile idiots which do all of these nightmare, they will activate another timeline, another embodiment, and you will keep having to face all of this. I'm gonna close here right now. I hope this is enough information about timelines. Again, I say you can ask to be moved on a new timeline. Remember, when you are moved on a new timeline, you always get all the divine rights. It's a new beginning for you. Yeah, every time when you move in a new timeline, it's a new beginning. But there's a distinction between being in a new timeline, which comes again with a situational cycle. I would say always it's a karmic cycle, because it comes from 3D. It's something that was lived before by another generation before you. So that's a karmic thing, yeah? And it's a distinction between this, a new timeline, and your own reality, you and God. Unfortunately, these people don't let us live just us with God. Most of the times they drag and pull and push to create timelines, or to bring timelines from the past, or to create new timelines on you and new identities and so on and so forth. So, but this is 3D. This is why we came. So I guess this is it. The ideal God is pointing out to me, don't say this is it. The ideal, the goal that we have together with God is to reach the moment when we can create reality. Yeah. So we are we're done with the timelines. We finished all of these, and no timeline from the past is dragged into our reality. Yeah. We are creating reality. So you are yourself, and you are working with God and creating reality. But until you get to that ideal situation, most of the times you will get to create either while you go through a timeline, or in between timelines before they get to activate a new timeline on you. Yeah. Okay. So this is the ideal, to get to that point when you don't have timelines to fight. You don't always get it. So then you have to remember that when a timeline is activated, you have your full divine rights activated for you by the divine. Yeah. Now, of course, the timeline comes with a bondage, and the bondage has the purpose to steal your divine rights. So you must fight that in order to get the divine rights, which belong to you anyhow. Okay, now I'm gonna stop. I really think I pointed out to all important issues. Okay, as always, if you have questions, please mention them, and I'll be happy to answer. Yeah.